welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Siriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I am your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well. I got a brand new mic today, which I'm very, very excited about. So I'm ready to get into it because I've been looking forward to this ever since I ordered the mic, which was, I guess, only a couple days ago. But it's here, and I'm ready to record with it.
Yeah, and luckily I've diagnosed a problem from my end for the past couple episodes. I did not notice my microphone was not really on for last episode. And unfortunately for our segment coming up later on in the episode, I will not be mic'd up either. But luckily that problem is solved.
I will be with a different mic that isn't this one.
Yeah. And that segment later on is the second edition of Kyle's Questions.
Yep.
Probably our best guest in terms of, delivering good radio, I would say. He's always on the ball, always brings good energy to the show.
Definitely.
and delivers some questions that we hadn't really discussed on the show beforehand, outside of like no hitters. But that's always good. That's why we have him on. But anyway, kind of a slow news week thus far, outside of the fact that all-star ballots just came out.
That's right. Every year, I hope that this day doesn't come, but it always does, because I'm going to be upfront with you, Chris. I don't like All-Star Game voting. I haven't liked it since the Royals fans stuffed the ballots in 2015. It gives me PTSD every single time. And I know that there's never been anything since that, except for like maybe the Cubs fans in 2016, but that was a little more deserved just because everyone on that team was really good. But
Yep.
I'm not a fan of All-Star Game voting. There's something that makes me really angry every single year. And it's going to be the case again this year, which I feel like I kind of just have to accept. But, they give the fans a voice. And every year I say that the fans shouldn't have a voice in this subject. I think the only time they should give the fans the voice is in the final vote. I don't know if they still do that, but I'm okay with it. And, I really wish there was a different way of doing it. But you know what? All-Star Game voting has come again. And I think to honor the occasion, we will be filling out our All-Star Game ballots.
Yeah, and this is definitely the first. It might be the last, depending on how much.
I don't think they're ever going to end it.
But I mean, in terms of last, like this All-Star voting is going to be going on for about a month, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Remember when they would open it in like mid-April?
Yep.
Like.
Yeah. Well, so when they moved it back to June, I was like, oh, are they just not doing it this year? Like, let's go. And then they eventually were.
Because, man, like it would have been, I would have been a lot more for it had they had it start in June, like when the All-Star Game actually mattered. Now it doesn't matter, and they're actually making a little more sense.
Yeah, it does. Didn't they do that thing where like they added another round of voting where it's like the top 5 of every position, like they start a new round? Like, I think I remember them doing that at some point, like 2018, 2019.
Yeah,
Wonder if they might have done that.
They might have done that.
Let me check to see if they're still doing that. I'll check MLB's Twitter page, but I don't know.
That sounds familiar.
It does.
So, yeah, that might be true. But yeah, like the fact that it happened in a game that actually mattered, that actually provided home field advantage to World Series teams was ridiculous. But now the All-Star Game is kind of fun. So now I don't mind it as much because it doesn't count. But when it counted,
So phase 1 of All-Star game voting is June 3rd, which is today, through June 24th, and then phase 2 is June 28th through July 1st. So I guess, I mean,
We'll do
we'll
a
do our
phase 2.
ballots today, and then we'll do our ballots on June 28th.
Yep. That's a good idea. But yeah, uh, the fact that there was All-Star game voting when the game actually happened is
Yeah.
still
Like
ridiculous.
Omar Infante almost started at second base for the American League in 2015.
Right. And actually it's funny because the Royals actually probably should have been mad that that was happening because they went on to go to the World Series that year, and they could have not, like, the American League ended up winning that game, but if they had,
How much of the contributions actually were from the Royals, though?
yeah,
Because I
right,
remember Mike Trout homered in the first off Zach Greinke, who was like one of 2 non-Royal starters in that game.
yep.
Um,
I imagine most of them were pulled after like the third inning.
yeah, the AL didn't score again until the 5th inning.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Um, but yeah, like if you're the Royals, secretly you're like, I don't really want I don't really want Omar Infante out there. Can we put out Cano or Altuve so we can have a
Yeah.
so we can try to
Um,
get this home field advantage?
so the next American League runs came on a Prince Fielder single, and then a Lorenzo Cain double. But you know what? Lorenzo Cain like actually deserved to be there. He finished third in the MVP voting that season. He's the one guy, like, or one of the few guys that actually deserved to be there. And then a Manny Machado double, a Prince Fielder line out, and then a Brian Dozier home run. And those were all the American League runs. So the only Royal that actually did stuff is the one guy who like deserved to be there more than anyone else.
Right. Uh yeah, Lorenzo Cain. All right, yeah, that's so kind of funny how that worked out. Yeah, if you're the Royals, you want whoever the best American League shortstop was instead of Alcides Escobar.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who that would be though. The best American League
I mean,
short.
I can look it up.
Who came in for Escobar in that game?
I don't have it pulled up anymore, but I can check who the best shortstop was in the 2015 first half in the American League.
Yeah, because I remember the famous Derek Jeter's last All-Star game. It was Alexi Ramirez who came
Yep.
in.
Oh wow,
That,
it was Xander Bogaerts,
oh
who
yeah,
didn't
I
even
mean,
make it that year because he was. I remember he was on the final vote and he got snubbed. Yeah, it was. To be fair, Alcides Escobar was second. Yeah, but in terms of wins above replacement, at least, but he did have a 91 weighted runs created plus in the first half. But granted, this is 2015, and he had a 290 average, and I feel like 2015 was like sort of the last year, in my opinion, where like at least for me when I like stopped looking at batting average religiously.
yeah, yeah, around there, especially like started the Statcast era. I guess
Exactly.
maybe our baseball brains advanced after that. Um, but yeah, that's kind of our stance on All-Star voting. But now we kind of look at the ballot. Should I screen share the ballot and see what it is, and we can go between tabs
I mean,
because
I have mine pulled up as well, so I guess like, you can if you want.
all right, yeah, we'll hold off for now, but
Yeah.
some of these are probably going to be very easy.
Yep.
Um, so I think, yeah, so they have it first at first base, and it's American League and National League, and obviously you got to go Vladdy Jr.
Hmm.
at in the American League, and then on the other side,
I would say Max Muncy.
yeah, Max Muncy, who's
Yeah.
been maybe the hottest, like one of the hottest hitters of the past month. And he's had a great season, 964 OPS. So then you go on to second base,
Hmm.
second base, and American League. I guess you could say
I would say Marcus
Marcus
Simeon.
Marcus Simeon, because you kind of have to ignore the savant stats
Yeah.
when you're doing this, because man, he's like probably the third or fourth luckiest according to the difference between WOBA and expected WOBA, but he's definitely earned his way onto the into the starting spot thus far this year. And then National League, I feel like you go Adam Frazier.
You could go Adam Frazier. He is the 4th lowest strikeout rate in the league. The only thing that would probably stop me is maybe Jazz Chisholm because he did miss some time with an injury. He has a 128 weighted runs created plus, and I believe Frazier's is a 111. Um,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Let me just check.
Let's take a look at the National League second baseman wins above replacement leaderboards.
Well,
Of
it's
course,
not
they
going to
have
show Chisholm because he doesn't qualify, but he is 1.1 in the limited amount of games he's played. Frazier is 1.6. Oh no, he's a 143 weighted runs created plus. Yeah, I'll take Frazier. I'll take Adam Frazier
yeah.
as
Let's look
well.
at our go to minimum plate appearances at 0.
Yep.
And then it would be Muncy number 1, who's actually a first baseman. This is on Fangraphs. And then number 2, you got Adam Frazier, and then after him, Cronenworth, Albies, Wong, McMahon. But Chisholm, he could make up ground if in the next month if he continues his pace. But yeah, Frazier's been pretty good. Yeah, 3 stolen bases, a 143 weighted
He's been
runs created
excellent.
plus. The one shining star on the Pirates, you never know who it's going to be, but
I
this
mean,
year
we all
it's
thought it would be Brian Hayes, but he got hurt, obviously.
yeah, exactly. We thought it would be him, but
So
not at
this is very
all.
weird. For third baseman, Chris Bryant is listed as an outfielder on Fangraphs, but a third baseman on MLB.com.
Is he just not in the third base rankings altogether
No,
in the National League? That's huh.
little odd. Yeah.
Yeah, I know he's been at first base a little bit when Anthony Rizzo was out for a couple games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, he's been the best National League third baseman if you count him as a third baseman.
Yeah, he has been.
American League third baseman is probably the most interesting thus far that we've done.
I would say I did him for a How About That recently, so I would say Yohan Moncada. And I
Yeah,
also just think, I mean, he leads all third basemen in F4 with a 2.5. Unless you count Chris Bryant, I'm assuming he is more than that. He's one of the best. He's one of the better players in the league. He is the best weighted runs created plus of any third baseman. He has the best WOBA of everyone, I think, besides Jose Ramirez. He's a really good walk rate for a second baseman, which is not traditionally a position where you see a lot of walks, or for third base even. And obviously the 429 BABIP is glorious. So I'm gonna put Yohan Moncada at third base for the American League.
yeah, it's interesting. I'm probably gonna lean that way as well because of this
Mm-hmm.
discrepancy in wins above replacement. But it's worth noting some of the other candidates. Or actually, let me put the minimum plate appearances back onto qualified before I start talking. But it's like I pointed it out before the show. It's very interesting the difference in how like Devers and Moncada uh, are ranked in OPS versus weighted runs created plus because
Yeah,
uh, Rafael Devers has a 67-point advantage in OPS. However, he trails Moncada by 3 points in weighted runs created plus. So I think that should be noted somewhat. And I think another good honorable mention is Jose Ramirez, who has an 882 OPS, 137 weighted runs created plus, along with 6 stolen bases. So, and he can do it defensively. He can perform well on the bases as well. But I think there's about a half point difference in F4 with Yohan Moncada.
being better.
Although
Yeah.
Devers is very good at driving in runs. I think he's been pretty good with runners in
Well, I mean,
scoring
he's got an
position.
excellent he's got Bogarts and Martinez usually ahead of him, and Verdugo
Right.
as well. So it makes sense.
I would imagine he has more opportunities with runners in scoring position. I'm gonna look at the last thing I will look at is outs above average,
All
just to
right.
see what's happening.
This
So
is
we're
this is
looking at
tense. Seeing who
Devers.
Chris is gonna go with.
I'm still leaning towards Moncada, but the OPS difference, I do not know if the park factor is that disparate. I do not know if like maybe it's different for left-handed batters, but it's harder to be a left-handed batter at Fenway than it is
It
a
is very,
right-handed batter.
yeah.
So I don't know. It's
I guess, I mean, Moncada's a switch hitter, so it's pretty tough to look at that with him.
yeah, I'm gonna go with Moncada because he has a
Yeah.
strong advantage defensively. So yeah, I'll go with Moncada for now. And I guess I don't know. Actually, last thing. I'm gonna look at the park factor for Fenway and the park factor for
Guaranteed rate field.
guaranteed rate, according to Baseball Reference.
Yeah, and I mean there are some discrepancies, but I don't think Fangraphs. I think Fangraphs is the only of the three like main websites that doesn't have park factors because Savant just added them like maybe a month ago, probably not even.
Yeah. So Fenway is a little bit over 100, and guaranteed rate is a little over 90 for like the 1 year, I think. I don't know what the difference is between those two, but you kind of have to trust it. And Moncada has a 146 OPS plus, Devers has a 152, but Moncada definitely has the defensive advantage. So yeah, I'll go with Moncada. All right, National League. Chris
Third
Bryant.
base. I would go with Chris Bryant. I think it's very weird that Fangraphs lists him as an outfielder, but on here he's listed as a third baseman, so I'll go with him. I think the next closest would be Austin Riley. He was another how about that of mine, and even below him is Evan Longoria. So that's two how about that's. But I'd go with Chris Bryant, who is one of your how about that's.
Yeah. Right, correct. American League shortstops. Funnily enough, Adalberto Mondesi is listed with his
the
10
highest OPS plus. Didn't he just go back on the IL?
I mean, just based on the note, he has 2 home runs and 5 RBI. He can't be he he can't be qualified at all.
No. I would go with Bogarts and Tatis. I think that's not that difficult.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. Yeah, Mondesi has played 7 games this year, so
yep.
If you want to vote for him, go ahead and vote for him. But I believe in playing more than 7 games to earn the All-Star vote.
That's fair.
Yeah, hot take from me.
All right.
I'm gonna agree with you there, with Devers and Tatis.
Wait, whoa, Devers and Tatis.
Or no, Bogarts and
Tatis. Mike Zunino has been the king of ISO this year.
And it, what's funny is I've been looking at these how Savant has the home run leaderboards with like expected home runs, doubters, no doubters, mostly gones. Like Mike Zunino is the king of no doubters. Like when he gets a home run, it's crazy
every single time. Well, didn't he have like a 118-mile-an-hour home run the other week?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if I saw it, but I would not be surprised.
129.
But yeah,
I
like
say above,
it's crazy.
I want to see where his ISO ranks among qualifiers because he's not qualified just because he's a catcher. Most catchers aren't, but his ISO is larger than Acuna's.
Like 100 plate
appearances. Yep. His ISO among 247 hitters with his ISO among 247 qualified hitters with 120 plate appearances ranks second behind Fernando Tatis Jr. He is a 400. Zunino is a 345. It's not even close. And Tatis is still hitting 293. Mike Zunino's got a solid 207, 287, 552 with a 134 weighted runs created plus. The dude only hits extra base hits every now and like once in every 5 plate appearances.
That's kind of how it felt in the playoffs.
Yeah. Like he got his one every series, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, we were always calling like the Mike Zunino moonshot in the playoffs. Like it's gonna happen eventually.
Yeah, he's due.
He's gonna hit 075 in this series, but he will get his home run.
And they were always nicely timed home runs too. Like
Yeah,
he hit one off Jay Happ in that second game where the Rays won by I think 1 or maybe 2. He hit one in one of the ALCS games that the Rays won, and he hit one in the wild card series, but those are never close.
right.
Yeah, so Mike Zunino would be my American League catcher. Buster Posey would probably be my National League catcher, which is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Buster Posey, he was one of my how about that's, and he's having like a very good comeback year as he opted out last year, and probably one of the main reasons the Giants have been contenders. He's been one of the major differences for them. All right, so we have left the infield and the battery mates. Now we get into the outfield where you can select 3. So it's a pretty open field in general. So I'm trying to take a look at all the outfielders because there's a long list, obviously. What's on your mind?
So I'm I'm pretty set on 2 AL outfielders. I'm just questioning the third because I'm definitely going Mike Trout because I think he should be back by the All-Star break and he's available, so I'm just gonna vote for him. He's still got 198 weighted runs created plus, and I'm gonna go with Aaron Judge. Not much need. I don't think much needs to be said there. For my third, I'm very torn. I'm thinking possibly Austin Meadows. I'm thinking possibly Mark Canha. I'm thinking possibly Adolis Garcia. I think it would be between those 3. And
Yeah,
they're all within 3 points of weighted runs created plus.
even like I don't know, Mitch Haniger or Austin Meadows is a possibility.
Well, I already said Austin Meadows.
Oh, you did?
I said Meadows, Garcia, and Canha.
Yeah. I mean, it's something where it's definitely going to change.
Yeah,
Uh,
that one is tentative to change, but I would if I had to pick right now, I would say Garcia just because of the expectations heading into the season compared to where he's at now. I know that it might not be sustainable because his strikeout to walk percentage is like pretty bad.
yeah. Yeah, right. Can we address how crazy it is that Byron Buxton still leads in
Yep,
American League outfielder F4 despite missing half the season?
it's very insane. And he didn't he is he's back yet? You know, yes, no. I mean, if he comes back, I could probably change it to him and have Buxton, Trout, and Judge.
Right. Um,
NL outfield's pretty easy.
yeah, it's weird. It's
Hmm.
it's weird because it's like when Key Brian Hayes, I think, led National League rookies in F4 playing like 20 games.
It was wild.
Like, because, he had like, a weighted runs created plus of over 200 or something like that. Very good
I think it was
defense.
like 215.
Yeah. Like, that's what Buxton did. He had platinum glove type defense, a 224 weighted runs created plus, but only in 24 games.
Yep.
Otherwise, he would be the clear MVP favorite, but has missed over half the season. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm trying to think what we got here.
NL
Yeah,
outfield. Okay, yeah, I'll let you do AL outfield first, but NL outfield I think is just very easy.
I think, um, yeah, I guess yeah, Trout deserves it. Trout deserves to be on there at least for now. So I'll go Trout. Then so Buxton's not going to get in. I'm looking at the F4 leaders. I don't think Laureano gets in. Uh, yeah, Garcia's got 7 stolen bases, which is surprising. So I'm going to put in Garcia. And yeah, I think I'll go Judge and Garcia.
Yeah,
So
so we
yeah,
got
we
the
have the
same
same
AL
outfield.
outfield right now.
Um, all right. So that's what we got. And then yeah, let's go to National League. Where who do you got?
I got Castellanos, Winker, and Acuna.
Wow, Rhett. You forget how amazing the Reds have been.
Well, I mean they're in
Or
fourth place, but
the
you look at those 2 guys.
those 2 Reds in particular, I
Yep.
meant to say.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a pretty big discrepancy between them and the rest of the pack. So yeah, I'm gonna go with those 3 as well. Um, let me put it in the ballot. Castellanos. Yeah, it's been those three, and like big time discrepancy between them and the rest of the pack. Betts and Soto have not turned it on quite yet.
Soto has been recently.
Yeah, and Soto also has been one of the unluckiest
He has.
according
By the
to
way, have you
Vermont.
seen did you see what the Nationals put out recently?
No.
So they put out the lineup card before yesterday's game, and in Juan Soto's spot it said like overrated with quotes, and I was like, I don't see anyone saying that. Like
Yeah, no.
it was to mock people who say that Soto's overrated. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, no, I
And like
haven't
not
seen
like
it either.
if I do see it, it's like from trolls. It's not like I'm not seeing like the MLB Network analysts and then the writers being like, have we been hyping up Juan Soto too much after his slow like start? Like I have not seen that.
Yeah, it's not like an Aaron Judge situation or
No.
I don't know, a Bryce Harper situation. He's been like the guy's literally been on track with like Ted Williams for a
Yep.
guy in his early 20s, and people have been recognizing that. So
No one's really
yeah,
like Fangraph straight up put his comp up to Ted Williams and no one was like blaming them.
yeah, they had like factual evidence to back it up.
Yep.
All right, American League DH. I think you could go either JD Martinez or
Shohei
Shohei
Ohtani.
Ohtani.
I mean, Otani's going to get the vote pretty easily. I mean, I think the idea is that Kevin Cash is gonna like put him into pitch in the All-Star game and then have him hit.
Right.
Like I think just for that purpose, I'd honestly just go Otani just because I would love to see that.
Yep. Yep. And he has the base running. I
It
think.
does.
I think he's got 4 stolen bases this year.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. DH, just to double check that. Fangraphs is acting a bit slow right now, but yeah, I think that does it for our.
Would you also go Otani?
Yeah, I think I'm going Ohtani.
Okay. So I think we had the exact same thing. Did we disagree
Um,
on anything? I almost disagreed on National League second base, but I did go with Frazier.
Ohtani has 7 stolen bases this year, so and he only trails JD Martinez in weighted runs created plus by 5 points, and he's actually played more
Yeah.
games than him. But Martinez has the wins above replacement advantage. I guess, yeah, Martinez technically has more defensive runs above average than Ohtani, but that's not something I'm really considering with DH. So yeah, I'll be putting in Shohei Ohtani, and I have 5 entries remaining today. I'm going to review and I'm going to submit.
Oh yeah, I should probably submit as well.
So all right, so yeah, my team. I'm guessing we have the same team. My team is American League. At first base, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. At second base, Marcus Semien. At third base, Yohan Moncada. At shortstop, Xander Bogaerts. In the outfield, Adolis Garcia, Aaron Judge, and Mike Trout. At catcher, Mike Zunino, and the DH is Shohei Ohtani. And Daniel, I believe you have the same.
I do.
And then National League. At first base, Max Muncy. At second base, Adam Frazier. At third base, Chris Bryant. Shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr. In the outfield, Ronald Acuna Jr., Nick Castellanos, and Jesse Winker. And at catcher is going to be Buster Posey. And you have the same there as well. So yeah, that's where we stand on June 3rd, 2021.
I think when the second phase starts, we'll do like a follow up. And then
Yep.
what I think we should do is only like nothing will be revealed at that point. So I think we should pick out like all the teams that are probably gonna have one All-Star. We should pick out like who they're gonna be. It's like who will be the Detroit Tiger, who will be the Pittsburgh Pirate if Adam Frazier's available.
Right. Yeah. If Frazier just kind of falls off and it becomes a bit of a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll always bring in that random reliever like
Yeah.
Joe Jimenez.
Joe Jimenez from I forget what year that was. I think like 2018, 2017.
Yeah, I think it was like 2018. The unforgettable year. of Joe Jimenez, all-star.
He was like the worst reliever on the team the next year too.
Yeah, I mean that's the life of a reliever. But yeah, that's all-star voting thus far in 2021. We were proud to have a say in our democracy, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'd be okay with this democracy ending.
yeah, I wouldn't be I would be fine with an all-star dictatorship or
Yeah.
maybe
Who if you had to have one person vote, who would you let it be?
one person
Because
vote.
I know who I would pick.
Um, okay, that's a good question. Because
Like if you had to pick one person in the baseball world that picked the All Stars, who would you choose?
because I'm thinking reporters, but I think the reporters aren't always the greatest analysts. But I don't know. I'm trying to think who my points of view align with the most. You know what? I'll just go out on the limb and say Brian Kenny.
That's who I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I literally was going to say Brian Kenny.
yeah.
I
Why
trust
not?
everything that man says.
Yeah, I probably align with him the most. Maybe I disagree a little bit on bunting, but you know, not everybody's perfect.
That's fine. That is completely fine. Um, I remember the day that I discovered like, okay, I gotta shut up about Brian Kenny was the year after Mariano Rivera got into the Hall of Fame. Brian Kenny always does like a preview of the following year's first year class, and like every year there'll be like a this guy's not gonna get much attention next year, but here's why he should. And then he was talking about Bobby Abreu, and I was like, okay, Brian, like you're going a little too far here. Like Bobby Abreu, and guess what? I put him on my ballot this year.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what? You got me.
Yeah, and he talked about the idea of openers. It's crazy.
hmm Yeah,
He's
I mean,
got
like I'm reading his book right now, which came out in 2016, and he has a whole chapter on bullpenning. And the Rays didn't really normalize that until 2018.
yeah,
I
like
remember actually going back to the All-Star game. I remember in 2015, they were having like a panel discussion on who should start the All-Star game in 2015, and Brian Kenny was like, the American League should start Wade Davis because like if you're the All-Star game starter, you go out there to get 3 outs. Who gets 3 outs in the league better than Wade Davis?
yeah, he's got a point. He had a
Yeah, I
point.
was like, I remember in 2015, I was like, yeah, he's right.
Yeah, and
They're,
it
they're
was a
never
game.
gonna do it.
It was a game that mattered too. So like, why
It
not?
was. And I mean, Wade Davis is a guy who like had much more incentive. It's not like I don't know who was like a really good reliever on a bad team,
In 2015,
or just at any point when it mattered.
um, like uh, I'm trying to
Like if
like
Brad Hand was on one of those,
Koji
like if Brad
Uehara.
Hand on one of those Padres teams,
Yeah, Hand like Uehara in 2014.
yeah, Koji Uehara in 2014-15, yeah, like Brad
Uh,
Hand on one of those Padres teams if he was starting when it mattered.
right, exactly. Yeah, Davis, exactly, and he was one of the actual deserving Royals on that
Mhm.
team who could have been starting. Um, but yeah, that's the All Star voting, and now we get into our second edition of Kyle's questions. This is going to be a good one. So here it is. And we are here with Kyle Belanger. If you did not see the first edition of Kyle's questions, you can go to episode 102. We kind of previewed the AL East together and went well. And we're kind of curious and, context of the situation. Obviously, Kyle had not really been following the baseball world for a few years and kind of wanted to get back into it. We're kind of his guide back into the baseball world. And first question I have you, I know it's Kyle's questions, but one of my questions, what has been your baseball consumption thus far in 2021?
I mean, I'm right back to thanks for having me back, guys. I'm right back to where I was. It's like falling off a bike. You never forget how, right? And so um I mean, before, so I can't actually say that. So before I took my baseball hiatus, AKA became a dad. I I would consume, I think I said that for those of you who maybe didn't listen to episode 102. Also, what the hell? Like, why didn't you listen to 102? The reason why I stepped away was because I like baseball in its true 162 game form. I like the 6 month narrative. I like being able to follow I like being able to follow what happens when when the College World Series guys sign, and I like to be able to see what how quickly they can go from, I mean, in the old timey it was called what, high A ball, come up through the Eastern League and stuff. I love that. That's what I love about baseball. And so I stepped away because being a dad the way that I dad, yeah, it's a verb. I did that. I was unable to give 6 months worth of nights away. Not unwilling, but unable. And then subsequently unwilling. And so I'm right back to where I thought I could be, and I'm there quicker. My training wheels are off. Baseball has become the what we do at night in our house. My wife's a huge baseball fan. And so, with the exception of, I'm also a major basketball fan. So the past couple of weeks, we've been taking some nights off from baseball for my favorite league, the WNBA, and the NBA playoffs. But the beauty of baseball is that it's 7 nights a week. And so I am really enjoying that. Because of my personal cable sitch, I don't get Nessun, which is not really a big deal to me, because even though I grew up a Sox fan, and I suppose if I had to claim a franchise to like get across international borders, I would claim the Red Sox. But I think you guys both know that my sports fanhood has become really bastardized. I'm just a sports fan, and happily I'm a baseball fan again, and I'm watching a lot of baseball, and it feels really good.
Yeah, no matter who your team is, it's very easy nowadays to just become a neutral baseball fan and to watch every team.
Mhm.
Like it's easy to, even if your team's like in a 3-game losing streak and not looking good, it's easy to just, for me, it's easy to detach and be like, all right, well, the Padres and Dodgers are on. Let's watch that instead.
I mean, also the Padres and Dodgers seem to play every night. So, and I'm really into that because it's great theater. I also got to say that I think we've reached the point in sports fanhood, and this is maybe a discussion for a different podcast, where you have grown up in the fantasy era. Like, I mean, I was, at the very beginning, I played my first fantasy season in 1989. I was 12. I was like collecting money for a pay league at 12 years old. I mean, you trace the thread of of the things that I like to do in life, and it goes right back to there. But so I think it's much easier to be a fan of a player and follow that player now, much more than it was when I was a kid, when free agency wasn't really a big deal, and when you really did, you died for the laundry, right, versus the player. And yeah, I love it. I love it. Baseball's been great to me this year so far, and I'm really happy to be back.
Yeah. See, fantasy's evolved to the point where I'm in a league now that's entirely run by myself and my friends, where we draft players at the beginning of the year. Whoever you draft, that's your team for the year. You can only make one. You can only make one change to your team, and it's an injury. It's an injury replacement for if a guy gets hurt. And the only stat we track is FWAR.
That's it. It's only one category.
Yep.
Is it head to head, or is it head to head, or is it roto?
No, it's roto.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm in second right now.
Well, you gotta shake it off, and I don't know who the hell's ahead of you, but that's garbage, dude. You come on, get him.
Well, I got Mike Trout on my team, and he's been hurt, and I got JT Realmuto, who just got hurt. I've been Alec Bohm. I have Alec Bohm, who Chris highlighted as someone who's been doing bad recently. I have a couple under the radar guys that have been doing very well, but I mean, out of 10 people, I'm second right now, and it's all people that know their stuff.
Hey, you want me to go from one super nerdy thing to another? I just pulled a sweet Alec Bohm out of the 2021 Diamond Kings hanger that I got. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I've been collecting a lot of Alec Bohm.
Maybe that can get him to be a 0-win player.
I need him to turn it around.
Yeah, I need him just to get to 0 WAR, because he's at -0.4, I believe, right now.
Yeah, that's not typically a good thing.
No.
Yeah, it's very going back to it. It's very easy to become a neutral fan, like you guys said, because I mean, we've talked about it before. The amount of young talent there is, like the most exciting players right now are pretty much under 25 outside of the pitchers. Acuna Jr., Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Leading the way in the American League, and Fernando Tatis Jr. Ironically enough, all of them are juniors. It's kind of weird, but yeah, it's very easy.
Ronald Acuna Jr.
Yeah, like I mentioned, yeah, very, very easy. So, all right, do we want to get into your questions for today?
I would love to. I have 3 of them. And just for the record, I want everyone to know, I want the viewers to know, I asked if you guys want. What marvels me about you two, Daniel and Chris, is that I can spit these things. You don't want to hear them ahead of time, and you always have such great answers. So I'll go right into it because you already mentioned one of the dudes that's part of my first question here. It's an American League MVP question. And I've got 2 guys who I just adore watching. One you mentioned, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And the other is Shohei Ohtani Jr. I'm wondering, I'm wondering, of those 2, which of those guys do you think has a better chance, kind of a 2-parter, of finishing the year healthy and atop the AL MVP voting?
Well, because if we're gonna say,
and let me couch that. I believe that if Shohei Ohtani can stay healthy, there's no one who can touch that dude. He's doing things that no one's seen before. But I think that's the wild card in the question. All right, now I'll shut up and listen.
Yeah, I mean, Shohei Ohtani has a much bigger history with health issues. So I think Vlad Guerrero Jr., just by nature of history, has a better chance of staying healthy. He's moved positionally where he used to be a third baseman and now he's a first baseman, which I think that sort of leads to less of a risk for injury. He's not moving around as much on the field. And eventually I think we could see him as a DH full time at some point with whatever the Blue Jays have. Because like Rowdy Tellez, they have him DHing right now. I don't know how long he's going to be on the team. Maybe they could sign a first baseman at some point. So I guess for long term, Vlad has a better chance of being healthy. But if Ohtani stays healthy, like you said, no one's touching him.
I do have to say, I just want to say, Chris, too, that one of the things that I love about the move of putting Guerrero at first is, yeah, he was a third baseman, but he was I mean, I don't have the knowledge of the advanced stats that you guys do, but having watched him play third base a little bit on tape, he was a below average third baseman. And now, like, homeboy's like full splits at first. Like, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing some things. I'm seeing what I wish Prince Fielder was out of Vlad Guerrero.
Kyle, you mentioned advanced stats. Don't look at the defensive stats. They really, for the most part, don't mean much.
I would recommend Baseball Savant if you want to look at advanced stats. And you are right about his third base abilities. In 2019, he had negative 19 outs above average. And where does that rank? And if you think that's not good, that's definitely not very good. I think that's near bottom of the league. It's they don't have percentiles up for 2019, but negative 19 is probably one of the worst you will see. And yeah, this year it's kind of right around average.
Mm-hmm.
Fangraphs has him with a -3 defensive runs above average this year, which isn't very good. I could probably look at his defensive runs saved, but they don't have him being great. But it's like it is very hard to find a defensive stat that is like completely reliable because every one of them has some sort of flaw, except for maybe outs above average, just because it's very new and it's StatCast. So it takes like range and positioning into consideration.
Yeah,
but it's very difficult.
Yeah, it is hard. I rely on outs above average the most because I think it uses player data the most. But obviously, we're not experts here, and I can confirm to you now, quite literally, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was the worst defender in 2019 in his first full year where he was playing third base. So.
Yeah, it's been a joy to watch him turn it around. It has.
Yeah, and he wasn't brought up as a guy who is going to produce for you offensively and defensively. So it's good to move him to first base where he can feel comfortable, just being a beast on offense, not having to worry about having too much defensive responsibility. Because at least the best third baseman of today. When you're talking about Anthony Rendon, Nolan Arenado, Alex Bregman, they do it on both sides. There's not a lot of, there's not a lot of the guys at third base that don't really do well defensively. It's kind of a two-way position nowadays.
Vlad Guerrero Jr. has -2 defensive runs saved this year, which is not good. It's not good, but his UZR per 150 is 13th in the league. His UZR is ultimate zone rating, and the 150, I believe it means per 150 games played. It's 8.6 right now, which is, like I just mentioned, 13th in the majors, which is pretty good. So, but then again, his defensive run save says -2. So, like, it's hard to tell based on those two things. Is he good or is he not?
Right. First base to me, and I know this makes me an old guy, but like first base to me has always been an eye test position for me. I mean, like that's really what first base looks like for me. Like I feel like, for outfielders, we can really look at, and again, I'm not a statistics guy, but I feel like for outfielders, there's far more accurate ways to determine the things that I can't see when I watch an outfielder break on the ball or whatever, right? I mean, like you can measure that, but for a first baseman, I can tell if you're crappy. I can really see that.
I mean, eye test is a swear word on this program, but if we had to use it at one point, it might be defense.
How about the goddamn eye test? Can I say that? Is that less of a?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome, cool. All right. So can I move on to number 2?
Yeah.
First base. Yeah, first base is like, as long as you're not an abomination, I think you're pretty good. And I guess to answer the question, American League MVP wise and health wise, yeah, Shohei Ohtani is probably more of an injury risk. Definitely more of an injury risk in both of our opinions. And looking at Baseball Reference wins above replacement right now, which accounts for both pitching and hitting and defense and all that. Vladimir Guerrero has 0.1 more than Ohtani, and I think what also plays to Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s advantage is he's on a better team. I think the Angels are, for Ohtani, or what, a last place team or a second
Fourth
to last
place.
Fourth, they're a fourth place
The
team.
Rangers have lost a bunch of games recently.
Okay, let me do this then. Let me up the ante, because I hear what you're saying, and I also hear you both hedging a little bit on the answer. Let me do this. I know this is not a gambling podcast, but let me throw this out. These are numbers that I can get with. Let's say you both have $500 and you got to put it on one of these two guys, right? So Vegas measures the risk, right? They do. So right now, Shohei Ohtani is the favorite to win the American League MVP at +110, which, for people who aren't listening, it essentially means that that you're going to get paid. So for $500, you're going to get about you're risking 500 and you'll get back your 500 and then another 550. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is +350. He's second. So essentially Vegas is saying that Ohtani has a 3 times more likely chance to win the MVP this year.
Yeah.
All things considered, you got to put health in there. All things considered, do you agree with that?
I would. I mean, I think you got to put, health is probably the biggest factor right now, because he does have a very good, he does have very good numbers on the mound. He does have very good numbers at the plate. And I mean, I think that the way it's gone so far, I think he doesn't need to do as much as he needs to just stay healthy. Like, I mean, what is his OPS plus and ERA plus right now? I'm guessing it's like his OPS plus would probably be in like the 150, 160 range. He could probably end in like 115 in both and still win it. Which is, it's slightly above average in both.
Ohtani's OPS plus is 149. His ERA plus, wait for it, ERA plus is 163. So it's above 145 in both.
I mean, realistically, I think he could probably finish. So, Kyle, what those essentially mean is that whatever number comes after the 1 is what percent above average they are. So like he's 63% above the average pitcher as far as run prevention goes, and he's 49% above the average hitter with offensive production. Realistically, Chris, I think if he ends in 115 in both, he's probably winning it.
And how many games does he have to play to be in contention? Could he play 130 and still
I'd say he has to have at least 502 plate appearances.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems like a very arbitrary number, but that's how many you need to qualify in a 162 game season.
Okay.
And pitching wise, he has 36 1/3 innings pitched, and we're about a third of the way through the season.
Yeah, so he's not going to qualify for pitching stats probably.
He's going to have a little over 100 innings, and yeah, I mean, he'll probably have to do very well in the pitching department to in order for that to be a factor. But yeah, what did you say that Ohtani is three times the favorite of Guerrero Jr.?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, absolutely. That's what Vegas is saying on futures. Now, futures are kind of tricky, right? Because it's like it's not just either or, right? I mean, so there everyone else in this list too. I mean, just going down it right now is, it goes Ohtani, Guerrero, JD Martinez, Trout, Judge, Bogarts, down like that. So it's not just an either or, but that's roughly what it's saying is that there's roughly it's 3 times as likely for Ohtani to win it as it is Guerrero.
Yeah, if that's the case, I would probably put my money on Guerrero.
I think it's a smarter bet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it's probably 50-50 on who will win it, especially considering teams, and you don't know how much the voters are going to value pitching and hitting. And what also should be noted,
and hitting, because we don't have any past experience to go off of that.
right.
Yeah,
this is a great season.
What also should be accounted for is I think the voters did kind of account for Shohei Ohtani's ability in the 2018 Rookie of the Year vote, because
100%.
That was kind of a controversial thing, especially with Yankees fans, because it was the Yankee finished in second place, but it was virtually a guy. The Yankees player was a consistent, pretty good offensive player,
who could not play defense to save his life.
Very bad defensive player, and then it was Shohei Ohtani, who had played about like 2/3 of the season offensively and maybe 1/3 of the season pitching wise, but was excellent in both, and combined was better than Andujar. Like the amount of plate appearances he had as a batter and the amount of batters faced he had as a pitcher was close to the amount of plate appearances that the Yankees player Andujar had, if that makes sense. Like that's kind of, he had about the same production and was better overall.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that answers the question. So we'll get on to question number 2, because that one took a little bit.
I mean, I love that, but I think the reason why it took a bit is because those 2 players you could talk about. I mean, we could do entire episodes about those 2 players, and I love that about them.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but like those guys are both 26 and under, so like matching the theme of like the young talent in the game.
Yeah,
I hope both of them are in the home run derby. The home run derby crowd could be very great this year. Like we could have Vlad, we could have Acuna, we could have Ohtani, Adolis Garcia, Tatis, like at Coors Field. Like I really hope MLB goes all out with picking the home run derby candidates this year.
And if they keep up the $1 million challenge, it encourages young players to do it,
because they're probably still on their first contract.
Yeah, they haven't gotten into free agency. But yeah.
True. Hey, so my next question is, what's up with the no-hitters pace? This reminds me so much. I think it was 1990. I just remember
it is. It was 1990.
Yeah, the Andy Hawkins year. It was the Andy Hawkins no-hitter year. And that, yeah. So what is up with this? I mean, obviously we talked a lot about the ball being unjuiced, but you can't unjuice a ball and make people miss it. What the hell's going on?
Pitchers are getting better.
It's that easy.
It's pitchers, yeah. Like pitchers have evolved at a faster rate than hitters have.
So my real question is, can we maintain this pace of no hitters?
No, I think there is a bit of flukiness to it. Like, I mean, there could be like maybe 3 or 4 more throughout the year. But we're not going to be getting like no hitters every week for the whole season.
And is this and I don't mean to step on you, Chris, is this a result of hitters not having a full season last year of game situations? Is that what we're seeing, or is this honestly an evolution?
I think with that, it has a little something to do with the ball, and wouldn't consider the full season last year um, being that much of a concern, or not having a full season last year, because the offensive numbers from 2020 were not that much different than 2021, and probably over a full year we would have seen the offense rise, because over, the worst offensive months are always the first month of the year, because pitchers are fully healthy and you're always facing number ones and guys at the top of the rotation. So yeah, I think it has something to do with the ball, and spin rate has been a thing. We actually, in after the sixth no hitter, we finally talked about the no hitters, and most of the guys who threw no hitters had significantly higher spin rates than, or had significantly like better percentile spin rate than their fastball velocity.
They're
So
more reliant on spin rate than velocity.
yeah, so spin rate has a little bit to do with it. That involves uh, different training, and also, stuff on the baseball, and they've been investigating that.
Did you
I
see, Chris? Did you just see this came out like today? I think 4 different minor league pitchers were ejected for using substances, and they've all been suspended 10 games.
Yeah, that's something to look at, and
Like that's going to permeate. Yeah. By the way, Kyle, we talked about this on our last show. Like, in 2019, you saw the whole sign stealing thing with the Astros. We're gonna have sign stealing 2.0 pretty soon with pitchers using substances, because Josh Donaldson went on Twitter and said he is a catalog of every pitcher that's cheating, and he's gonna release just a massive list of every single person.
That's amazing. I can't wait to see how many bruises he ends up with. It's going to be fantastic.
I mean, he's not shy. He's not one to shy away from fighting people. Like
Hey, that's great, man.
he's a history of it.
I for one blame Ed Harris, the great pitcher for Cleveland. I think in 1990, in the movie Major League, showed us all the different substances that he uses. So the great Ed Harris is who I blame for this all.
That's fair. I wanted to get into the spin rates like Chris did, but I wanted to add some extra things. I've made this pretty well known on this program. One of my biggest pet peeve in the world is when people point to launch angle and like the hitting approach to launch angle as the reason for offensive decline, because it's just not true at all. And I looked at the data, and in May of 2019, the league launch angle was actually higher than it was in May of 2020 by a single degree, which is not too much for a small sample size. But it really hasn't changed much. But the average spin rate has gone up 30 RPMs, which is, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it can make the difference between, noticeable offensive decline and just, like it's still like relatively low batting averages, but high power.
And I've got to say, I do think, and I again, my analysis is far more archaic than yours, but I do think there's something to be said for, the hitters who were working in a cage much more than they were used to, whereas, pitchers are spending the entire pandemic plying their craft, throwing. And so, I mean, that's where my first time ever using this word, that's where a spin rate can really, I mean, that's where those reps can come in. And I think that is really significant. I hope, I look forward, because I don't want to blow up your spot here, but you promised me offense when we talked last time. And I haven't seen the offense that I was promised, and damn it, I'm here to tell you, I have my ticket. I bought offense, and I haven't seen the offense that I've been promised. So I look forward to the second half of the first half, the second half of the first half of the season. I need that offense to go up.
I mean, I think when I said offense, I didn't. My definition of offense is home runs. Like, you're gonna see a lot of those, and home run rates have been, up like they normally are. That's kind of what I meant. I mean, like singles have been dying for years. Like, you're not gonna see as much of like moving the ball around, BABIP. You're not gonna see much of that.
Well, you've never seen my game. I'm a banjo to right field. That's me all day long. Okay, so my last question is this. We're getting closer and closer to seeing some of these dudes. Obviously, we're not quite there yet, but the service time call ups are getting closer every day. We're still quite a ways out from that, but I'm wondering, as I'm starting to watch the minor league numbers develop, and it's been fun the last couple of weeks, watching guys like Jeter Downs, and watching the guys who I'm just so excited about. Forget about Blaze Jordan, who is years away. I am pumped about Blaze Jordan. Who's going to be the first dude that makes the impact that everyone wants to say is, Bobby Witt and all this. Who's going to be the guy that arrives and makes a splash first this year?
This might sound like a total homer pick, but Jaren Duran.
Is it you think that's sustainable?
I just saw this very recently where let me see. Let me pull up this tweet from the Athletic. Where Jaren Duran just played some games with Team USA.
Mhm.
And Todd Frazier said he quoted, like, he praised Jaren Duran, said he's going to be really good, and he said, "I said Trout was going to be something, and I'm thinking the same thing about Duran." It's a direct quote from Todd Frazier. And I know Trout didn't necessarily make the impact immediately. Like in 2011, he was a below average hitter, but he, came out swinging in 2012 and had one of the greatest rookie campaigns of all time. This is the total homer pick, but I would say Jaren Duran.
Okay.
I can't really put my finger on anybody because we've had some call-ups.
We have had some call-ups already. Jared Kelnick already came up.
Yep, and looks fantastic. Looks fantastic.
We've had some call-ups, but nothing's really shocked anyone. Like Kelnick has had somewhat below average numbers. Obviously, that's gonna fix itself as years go on. You don't really expect a guy to shine in the rookie year, but when I'm thinking of a rookie that can come up and change a playoff contender's run, I can't really put my finger on anyone in particular. I mean, maybe the most likely is the number one prospect in baseball, Wander Franco, but I don't know if he's going to be someone that immediately comes onto the scene and changes the way the Rays play. And I don't know who the parallel would be, but I don't see that necessarily happening. I feel like he'll have somewhat of a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. route, where first couple of years he's kind of getting used to Major League Baseball, and then all of a sudden in his age 22 season he's killing it. So yeah, I'm not sure. There's no one I can really put a finger on because we've seen some call-ups and they haven't really made that much of a difference to their clubs quite yet. And I think a lot of that has to do with there was no minor league season last year. So
yeah, it is difficult.
I think development might have slowed down a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's never been uncommon for highly touted prospects to come up to the big leagues and struggle at first.
Well, so
That's the tradition is oldest.
Let me ask you a follow-up on Wander Franco, because I'm not sure, like, I'm well documented on here talking about how I'm just getting back in, but from what I could tell, we didn't expect the Rays to be having the success. Like, I don't remember people talking about the Rays like the world beaters they've been. I mean, that whole division is just way better than I expected. Does that change the profile of what Tampa is able to or wants to do with Franco? The fact that they're already winning, does that decelerate maybe his call up?
I would say it does, because the Rays have had a history of letting their prospects really marinate in the minors. Like, I think the most notable story is Brent Honeywell. In 2017, a lot of people wanted him to be a September call-up because he was their number one pitching prospect. They ended up holding off for the 2018 season, but then he ended up needing Tommy John surgery, and he needed another surgery. It ended up taking him until this year to come up, even though he could have been up in 2017, but the Rays let him stay down there a little bit. And I mean, if they had to go back, I don't know if they would do anything differently, just because, I mean, I don't think Major League Time is going to would have kept him away from Tommy John surgery there.
No, but you're right in terms of the franchise. I mean, you have to probably go back to like Evan Longoria before they had a guy who they just brought up to the bigs when he was ready. Everyone else has been.
And even he came up to start a season.
Right. That's true.
I think the one thing that might be in Wander Franco's favor is, the Tampa Bay Rays, they just traded a shortstop. They had another shortstop come up who's not as highly touted, but overall this year, the Rays have had the Rays shortstops ranked 27th in Fangraphs wins above replacement. So in layman's terms, they've had the fourth worst shortstop production in all of baseball. And actually, let me go back to the other teams that are on that list. I can't imagine there's any contenders below them. But for a contender, not like shortstop may be like their worst position thus far this year. The only
Yep.
contender below them really is Oakland, who
Yeah,
let
well,
go.
Oakland shortstops have been like historically bad.
Yeah, and they let go of their of what was a good shortstop. And
Who just won? Yeah, they just let go of the May American League Player of the Month.
yeah, funnily enough, as we talk about it. So I think the one thing in Franco's favor is, not only is he the number one prospect in baseball, but the Rays seem to have a hole at shortstop. And
Yeah.
it's a bigger hole than pretty much anywhere else in the diamond I can think of.
I've taught myself to just never question the Tampa Bay Rays. Like when they traded Blake Snell, a lot of people were going crazy. I was like, no, something's gonna happen here. Like they'll figure something out. But guess what? Blake Snell is like an ERA in the fives now, and Luis Patino is one of the best prospects in the league. So I'm sure whatever they end up doing with Wander Franco, it will be the right thing for the team. Maybe they're just, they're waiting for him to play some more minor league games. Maybe he's up at the deadline. Maybe he's up in August. Maybe he's on a playoff roster. I don't know. I mean, maybe he's not up all year, but I think whatever they do will be the best interest for the team. I love the trade that they made for Willie Adames. I'm very high on JP Fireisen, one of the relievers they just got. He had a save the other day against the Yankees. And, I think he's going to be able to make a name for himself in October as well.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate this so much. It's so nice to be able to sink in and have and to learn some stuff from you. And now I know how to use some terms I didn't know before today. I am pumped. I'm like going into this weekend. I mean, it feels like the series are only getting more and more impressive, and then maybe that's just because the season's heating up, right? I mean, when the weather gets warmer and I can look at at what's on MLB Network, and even when it just says regional coverage, I get pretty fired up because that's when it's like a slot machine. I just pull it up and see what's on, and I just sink into it, crack open a cold seltzer, hashtag family show, and just enjoy. So thanks, fellas. I appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure.
We appreciate having you on. It's always a great segment, and we will definitely have you on as the season goes on. All right, so that was Kyle's questions, and now we're going to get into our how about that and slightly alarming statistics. And that was Kyle's questions. Digging into some stuff we hadn't really talked about, a prospect that could possibly change the fate of a contender. That was a good question. And we hadn't really dug into potential awards, but, he did point out the two favorites for the American League MVP and brought about a good discussion there. So, yeah, shout out to him. Follow him on Twitter at Kyle Belanger 1. And I feel like he does a bunch of media stuff, so it's hard to pick out one. Yeah. But like we said, it's time to get into the part we've prepared the most for, and our favorite part of the episode where we highlight players / subjects for good and bad reasons. So now to start for our June 3rd, 2021 edition of. So who do you have to highlight for this episode?
So I'm going to be talking about a guy who was acquired by his current team last offseason, and people were pretty excited to have this player. It's Hunter Renfroe of the Boston Red Sox. Over his last 15 games, he has a 998 OPS, which ranks tied for 17th in the majors, and his 172 weighted runs created plus ranks in sole possession of 17th. But most of the really good numbers come since May 26th, which it's only a 6-game sample, so it is not really fair. But I mean, what he's been doing is just ridiculous. Over the last 6 games, he is slashing 550, 571, 1150 for an OPS of 1721. He is a 715 WOBA and 369 weighted runs created plus. All those numbers, except for the on-base percentage, lead the majors. And also since then, he has 9 batted balls. that have been hit harder than 101 miles per hour, and that's tied for the most in the majors. So Hunter Renfroe has been just about better than anyone else since May 26th, and he's been very good overall over his last 15 games played.
Man, the effect there. That's the highlight of the episode. I can't
Yep.
wait for more of those.
Mhm.
1751 though. I mean,
21.
yeah, imagine like that's a like 6 games, imagine that as a playoff series. That would be historically good.
Yep.
Yeah, like Paul Molitor in a 6-game World Series had a 1571 OPS, and that's not within 100
What was David Ortiz's in 2016 or 2013?
I think it was 1948.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Barry Bonds was 1994,
1994. It's
and
easy to remember because it was a year.
that was in 7 games.
Mhm.
All right, so Hunter Renfroe.
How about that?
And that crosses another team off the list. We had not done a Red Sox player just
Our
yet.
goal is to highlight one player from every team for how about that during the season.
Yeah, and for that reason, I am highlighting 2 players for how about that. Not going too deep analytically, but I feel like both of them deserve a shout out for what they've been doing. The first one, I think he's been acknowledged, in the public thus far, because what he's been doing is amazing for on the field reasons and off the field reasons. But we haven't really acknowledged him on the show just yet. Trey Mancini.
Yeah.
In his last 32 games, he is hitting 336 with a 1007 OPS and 29 RBI. This is over a month where he's been putting up an OPS over 1,000. And on the season, he is hitting 375 with runners in scoring position. And in his last 32 games, he is hitting 400 with runners in scoring position. Along with that, his expected batting average is in the 96th percentile, and his expected weighted on base average is in the 94th percentile. So he is not particularly just getting lucky. He is earning it for sure. And since April 29th, he has the second most RBI in Major League Baseball. And the man ahead of him is my other how about that. And
Wow.
this is going to cross another team off the list. We have yet to do a Tampa Bay Ray until now, I'm pretty sure. Austin Meadows. In his last 17 games, Austin Meadows is hitting 328 with an 1162 OPS and 22 RBI. And particularly in this span with runners in scoring position, absolutely amazing. He is hitting 450 with a 1692 OPS with runners in scoring position in his last 17 games. So both Trey Mancini and Austin Meadows getting my for the week. Yeah, they've been I guess the theme of my how about that's was driving in runs, as they were doing amazing at driving in runs and doing well with runners in scoring position. So now we go from the highs to the lows, where we are talking about players or subjects that have been underperforming. So for our June 3rd, 2021 edition of
Slightly alarming.
what do you got for us today?
So I'm looking at another player who was acquired by his current team last offseason that sparked some joy in that city. And overall, he's had a very good season. He's just had a bit of a rough patch over the last couple of weeks. I'm talking about Nolan Arenado. Because he has been struggling for the Cardinals since May 19th. He is slashing 176, 200, 333 for a 533 OPS. His OPS on the year in this time has gone down from 944 to 847. So it's almost down 100 points since May 19th. And his walk percentage has been particularly bad. It's a 1.8%. And his 200 on base percentage since May 19th is the 4th worst out of 165 qualifiers since that date. So Nolan Arenado, the Cardinals have, been holding on for dear life to first place in the NL Central. They're not there now because of the Cubs. Nolan Arenado's struggles have been no doubt a part of that.
Yeah, for sure. Nolan Arenado.
Slightly alarming.
So yeah, not the best, but we'll probably get back on the horse eventually.
Yeah.
My I guess to somewhat go with the theme. Actually, this wasn't a trade, but this guy was signed in free agency. However, it was kind of a re-sign. And for my slightly alarming, I am talking about DJ LeMahieu, who has not been the
I was
same,
going to go with him.
who has not been the same this year. In total, this season in 52 games, he is hitting 255 with a 667 OPS. And when you isolate it to his last 23 games, it's very, very bad. He is hitting 205 with a 496 OPS in his last 23 games. And in this span, he has one extra base hit in his last 23 games. That's also 100 plate appearances where he's only had one extra base hit. And when you talk about DJ LeMahieu, when Yankees fans were very happy to have him back, and why like a Red Sox fan would kind of see him as a threat was his ability to hit with runners in scoring position. I remember in 2019 it was up near 400. Same thing with 2020, but in his last 23 games, he's hitting 111 with runners in scoring position, and that's significantly worse than even his baseline. At 205 in his last 23 games. He's hitting 111 with runners in scoring position in his last 23 games. It's been pretty bad. And to go with the Statcast angle on the season as a whole, his line drive percentage is the lowest it has been in the Statcast era. So DJ LeMahieu, someone who has been top 5 in the MVP each of the past 2 years, not quite the same looking.
Slightly alarming.
So yeah, and Yankees offense has been kind of a surprise in terms of how much they have not been producing. And
I remember in 2019 when LeMahieu came over there. Like we talked about this when he got re-signed in free agency, he completely changed the culture of that team. He made them look so much better than they already were as a 100-win team in 2018. And to not have him going is that we talk about Judge instead and how much of a catalyst both of them can be in the lineup. But DJ LeMahieu has the same amount of effect, even if he's not hitting 475-foot home runs every day.
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, he led the league. He won the batting title and led the league in OPS last season. And he qualified, which is why when you go to his page, those are bolded. But yeah, like he's been their best. He was their best offensive player in 2019 and 2020, and I guess luckily for the Yankees, they've had healthy. Judge and Stanton have pretty much been healthy all year. And I'm gonna go ahead and be unbiased and knock on wood there.
Yeah.
So
Well,
being
Judge,
unbiased
I mean,
there.
Stan just came back from the IL.
Yeah, I mean, but him only missing whatever 15 or 16 games is a
Not
healthy
bad, but I
year.
mean, but clearly it had some sort of impact because I don't think he has a hit yet since he came back. I think he's over 13 or something like that.
Potentially, but yeah, having Judge for the whole year thus far has been huge for them. He's in both of our all-star outfields, and he's been huge. And not having guys like LeMahieu or Torres or Urshela be quite the same has had a detriment on them. And I think they're like close to last in runs per game, which is crazy to think with the potential offense they can have. But yeah. Anyway,
Now,
for a preview of the week.
no, Chris.
Oh right, yeah. Our monthly award, Daniel's monthly award. It is time for the May winner of the Carlos Santana Award.
The Carlos Santana of the Month award was inspired by Carlos Santana's slash line in 2020, which was 199, 349, 350, 699. It was just a beautiful display of offense being exclusively based on walks and sometimes extra base hits, but mostly walks, with little to no, offensive consistency with hitting. And the winner of the April Carlos Santana of the Month award was Ian Happ, and it will be staying in Chicago with Yasmani Grandal being the no doubt about it winner in May. Yasmani Grandal had a 38.7% walk rate in the month of May with a slash line of 136, 467, 409, 876. That is an absolute miracle of a slash line. 136 average, 876 OPS. And even better, his 3 true outcome percentage, 78.6%. Almost
Wow.
4 out of 5 times he came to the plate, he wasn't putting the ball in play, which is amazing.
Wow.
So, no doubt about it, Yasmani Grandal is the second recipient of the Carlos Santana of the Month award.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. He's definitely going to have a how about that type season where like he'll end up hitting probably under 200 with the on base percentage.
If he was doing this in like the 70s, everyone would be like, "Oh man, this guy sucks."
Yeah, he would be released by the White Sox by now.
Yeah. If Tony La Russa was still managing, can you imagine back in the 80s when Tony La Russa was managing? He would hate that if he was managing now.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
Yeah, no.
All right. Well, after that, it's time to get into our preview of the weekend ahead.
Yes, it is.
Where we'll be highlighting some series, some matchups to go over. I'll start off with the series to watch. It's funny because these teams just keep popping up for me, but they just have my interest. First series I'll talk about is Giants Cubs. The Cubs are the hottest team on the planet right now, and the Giants are kind of close up there with them. I don't know. Well, I can't exactly identify a span, but they've been one of the best teams in baseball for sure. And they're going to be another test for the Cubs, who just won. Cubs just won. They just swept the Padres. Yeah. Cubs just swept the Padres. That was at home. Now they travel across the country to, or somewhat across the country to San Francisco. It's going to be Anthony Desclafani versus Zach Davies on Thursday night. And by the way, it's 4-gamer, obviously. On Friday night, Jake Arrieta versus to be determined. Saturday night, Cole Stewart versus to be determined. And Sunday afternoon, it is going to be Kyle Hendricks versus to be determined. So Cubs have announced their starters. Giants have not outside of tonight. And another series to look at is Padres Mets. Padres keep coming up, and they just got swept. Mets have been on a pretty good run, and I think tonight you're going to mention the matchup for tonight. That's a very good matchup. Friday night is Blake Snell versus to be determined. Saturday night is another great matchup that you're probably going to be highlighting, and then Sunday is going to be Marcus Stroman versus to be determined. So let's get to those day-by-day matchups.
Yeah, so if you're on the East Coast, you might want to stay up pretty late tonight if you don't have plans on your Friday, because tonight you got Taijuan Walker versus Yu Darvish in Mets Padres, the opener. Chris obviously just got into it. He hid the matchup though, which is very nice of him. So with that being said, I'm definitely going to look at those two going at it tonight. I know that Taijuan Walker, he has a 1.84 ERA, and his underlying numbers are not as good, but nonetheless, it's still not bad. I think his FIP's like in the mid threes.
Right. He's been very
which
good.
is still acceptable. And then on Friday, you have Zach Greinke versus Hyunjin Ryu. I think that's pretty interesting because it's like Zach Greinke is basically the right-handed Hyunjin Ryu and vice versa. They're basically the same type of pitcher, but they throw with different arms. And then on the other side of that spectrum, Greinke versus Ryu, two older guys who've still got it. And then in Dodgers Braves, you got Julio Urias versus Ian Anderson, two younger guys who have been pretty successful in the early stages of their careers. That's going to be going on Friday. And then on Saturday, I'm looking at two particular matchups. The first one is Eduardo Rodriguez versus Jameson Taillon, which sounds a little weird because they both have ERAs in the 5s, but they've both been pretty unlucky. Chris, can you explain what Eduardo Rodriguez's expected ERA is this season?
I know it changes day by day based on like MLB data, but as of yesterday, his expected ERA was under 3, and I would imagine it remains that way.
It probably does. And Jameson Tyons is at a 381. So, I mean, they've both been pretty unlucky. They're going to be going up against each other to see whose luck is worse. And then later that night, you have Jacob deGrom versus Joe Musgrove. That really doesn't need much of an explanation. And then on Sunday, a lot of the matchups aren't exactly out yet, but I'd say one that I'd look at is Wade Miley versus John Gant. Just because, I mean, John Gant, I could do a whole segment on just how ridiculous his season has been. You might never see a luckier stretch in your life than what John Gant has done this year. And Wade Miley, he threw a no-hitter this year. He has a 3.26 ERA. He's been exceptional given, the kind of pitcher he is in this environment. And John Gant has just been incredibly lucky. That'll finish off the Reds-Cardinals series on Sunday. And also that series as a whole might just be interesting because I think it's the first time the Reds have gone to St. Louis since the whole fight that happened in the first series of the season.
Right, that's correct,
Mhm.
I believe. So yeah, that should be interesting. Yeah,
A lot of good baseball going on this weekend.
Yeah, John Gant is funny, like, because last year our volcano to look at was Dylan Cease, and by volcano we mean pretty good ERA, but underlying numbers suggest something else. That is the case
Below.
with John Gant. I'm trying to look for his.
So I can just explain it.
Yeah.
So John Gant has a 1.60 ERA and a 1.52 WHIP, which doesn't happen. In fact, he is the first starting pitcher to have an ERA below 1.75 and a WHIP above 1.5 in any 10-game span since the earned run became an official stat in 1913. It's been 108 seasons since then, and John Gant's the only starting pitcher to have been that lucky over that much of a consistent basis through 10 games.
Yeah, like, and obviously you look into now everyone would be curious to see what his numbers with like men on and runners in scoring position is. Hitters are 109. Hitters are batting 109 against John Gant with runners in scoring position.
Incredibly lucky.
That's a 156 BABIP as well. So that's going to be brought up most likely. It's pretty crazy.
He also has like 6 walks per 9 too.
He leads the league in walks. In
Yep.
overall walks. Like it's insane.
It is absolute BS that he is still, not getting absolutely shelled every outing because he should be.
Yeah, like it's crazy. I don't know how long he'll be able to keep it up, but man,
it is astonishing to watch.
And it's it's crazy because like we're coming up around when the end of the regular season would be
would have
in
been
last
year.
season. I wonder if he would get Cy Young votes from some of the.
He probably would.
Yeah,
look at this. Average exit velocity 23rd percentile, xWOBA 19th percentile, expected ERA 19th percentile. Actual ERA is probably in like the 97th percentile. Expected batting average of 118. Strikeout rate of 12%, chase rate 5th%, walk rate 8%, fastball velocity 16th%. Expected ERA of 5.10. 4.5 runs worse than what it actually is.
Like, geez.
His
crazy.
Walk rate is almost higher than his strikeout rate.
Yeah.
It's very close.
Yeah, it's very he's 39 strikeouts, 34 walks. Like it's incredible. So yeah, he's our pitcher to watch this year.
Austin Meadows hit a home run today.
Yeah,
that is how about that?
I saw that. So yeah, by the way, all these stats are through June 2nd. So definitely these are not updated. Even as this recording is going on, I would guess Meadows' OPS since May 13th is now above 1,200 again. So
probably maybe it can get to 1721 so we can tie Hunter Renfroe.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be something?
It would be something, very very much so. And I'm guessing at least another RBI or two from Meadows there. I don't know if it was solo or or a 2-run homer.
I think it was a 2-run.
All right, so yeah, there we go. 24 RBI in his last 18 games.
Let me just
Still-
make sure.
Still a machine out there for Meadows.
Yeah, it was. It was.
But yeah, we hope you enjoyed this one. Kind of a long one when we include Kyle's question. So
It was.
good amount of content for the listeners. If you're listening in on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. It is Above Replacement Radio. Follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta, and follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran. And follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the updates for the show. And we hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on Monday, where we will be discussing the happenings of Major League Baseball once again. We will see you then.
This conversation is over.